Okay, today we're going to design an ad in InDesign for the performance, the speaking that your designer, the speech that your designer is going to do at Northern Virginia Community College. And so we're going to start off, File, New Document. Under New Document, we want to click Print. You absolutely want to click Print. This is going to be a print document, not a web or mobile document. We're going to click, it gives you an option for tabloid, which is the size of page that we're going to work with. Notice that InDesign naturally comes up in picas. We can check our document size by changing the units to inches. So it's going to be 11 inches wide, 17 inches high. I'm going to turn off facing pages, which we won't get into this class. Also, we want to create a grid that we're going to use to help us design this piece. It will cut down on the number of options that we have, and that will hopefully make it easier to design. I'm going to go to a 5-column grid. I'm going to go back to picas, and I'm going to use column gutter of 2 picas, which I think will work better for this particular document. Margins are set to 1/2 inch or 3 picas. Bleed and slug is going to be set to 0.9. Uh, 0.9. You can see a preview over here of what it looks like to see if you've got it about right. And I'm going to click Create, and I have a document that looks like this. What I also want to do is to add a set of flow lines, which are a set of horizontal grid lines, which we will also use to help us arrange things on this page. To do that, I'm going to go to Layout, Create Guides. I'm going to change the number of rows to 12 because I actually want them to be sort of rectangular shape, horizontal rectangular shape. And I'm going to fit the guides to the margins, which means that there won't be any guides up here. You'll see if I change this to pages, what happens is that the grid box at the top and the grid box at the bottom become smaller than the rest of the grid boxes. So I'm going to turn it up to fit guides to margins so that the grid boxes are the same uniformly. And I'm going to click OK. All right, so I have a grid here. Next, I'm going to add some photos. File. To add photos, we're going to go to File, Place. I'm going to go to my project folder for this project. And I have a whole series of images. And I'm going to stop for a moment. No, I'm going to keep going. Okay. All right. So I want to pick an image on Adobe, on Apple computers rather. I can go to this column view, and I can actually click through my images to see what I want to use. I'm going to click that one. And I'm just going to pick a place in my grid. And I notice I dragged, as I clicked, I dragged. So when you select an image, your cursor has an image. When you go to place an image, the image shows up in your cursor. And I can click, just click like that, and it comes in at whatever size the original image is. But and I can hit Command Z to go back. But more useful is to click and drag, because then I can constrain it to this grid that I've created, like that. Notice also I've got a little black line on the edge of this photo, so I'm actually going to make this a little smaller, which allows me to demonstrate something. So first of all, I can crop my image by going to the black arrow at the top of the toolbar and pulling on the handles of this blue box. So if I wanted to say, crop it like that, I could do that. Crop it like that if I wanted to. So next, if I don't like the way this is sitting in this image, so I can crop with the black arrow. I can also either go click on this circle in the middle here, and you'll see I get a hand, and I can actually move this image around this way. Or I can go to the white arrow and I can click, and you'll see this brown box shows me the outside of my image. And if I click and hold, it does this, and then I can move it around and see how it's going to look like when it's cropped. If I want to move this around, I can click here, the free transform tool, and then I get a pair of arrowheads, and I can, in fact, move the image that way. Command Z, Command Z. If I want to make it smaller, I can click on the white arrow and drag this in. What I recommend, highly recommend, is to hold your Shift key as you resize so that you can keep your image proportional. One of the worst things that you can do to somebody's nice image is to do that to it. We want to keep it proportional to the original size so that it retains its original look. Okay, I can go back to my black arrow. You'll see that this kind of gets stuck here. It's kind of a feature / bug in InDesign that it doesn't immediately release this. So I actually have to click someplace where my image is not to deselect. Then I can go back to the black arrow and I can go to my blue box and I can make this bigger. And if I want to scale both the box and the image, I can hold down my Command and Shift keys and click and hold. And you'll see that I can scale this whole thing like that. And notice also that I am making sure that my image fits to my grid. like that. Okay. And then if I want some more images, file, place. I can look through my images. That's kind of a nice one. Okay. It will stay proportional the first time you drag it, but after you drag it once, if you just went command, this will do this, and it'll do that, and that's bad. You want to do command shift so that it stays proportional. And then, so it doesn't quite fit my grid this way, but it does fit my grid left to right, and so that's acceptable. Then file, place. Let's see, what else do we have? And then I'm going to drag this one kind of like that. And what I could do here is I could actually move this one up, have it based on the bottom of this grid, and base this one on the top of the grid. Or that's not quite right, but have it be like that. And if I preview, it looks sort of like that. Go back to my grid. So then I'm going to create a text box. So to create a text, to put text on this poster, I'm going to need to click on my type tool, and I'm going to need to drag a text box. And then I can type. Okay. And if I go to the eyeglass, the zoom tool, I can zoom in and see what I'm doing. Just a second. Okay. Okay. Now I know a little bit about this designer, and I've seen his work, and he likes to use what are called sans serif fonts. So those are fonts that don't have like what's called or referred to as the little feet on them. If you look right now, these fonts have little, this font has little feet on them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this, and I'm going to change to a different font. And I think I'm going to change to character. I'm going to go to universe. And that's a very condensed font. I'm going to, in fact, go to an extended, extra black extended. It's too extended. Extra black. Even that's too much. I'm going to go to, I'll get it eventually, black. There. Okay. Now I know that my body, well, okay, so what I want to create is hierarchy. I could make all of my type this size, but that's kind of boring and uninteresting. And I actually want to direct people's eyes around. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to make these a little bigger. And then I'm going to take this line and I'm going to make it lots bigger. Because I want people to be fascinated by the title of this speech. Notice that some of my type has disappeared. This is because the text box isn't big enough. So I'm going to take this text box and make it a little bit bigger. I think this type is a little bit too spaced out, so I can adjust that here. Can also do some special adjustment there. I can also change the spacing between lines. So I'm doing a lot of playing around, which is probably off-putting. And I'm thinking that I actually am going to try to hold this to my grid. Okay. See what this looks like. So I'm getting awfully fancy here, but next, excuse me a second while I go back to the module and get some more information. Modules. Go back to the assignment. I know you can't see me, but I'm just going back to the assignment to pull the type. Okay, and it actually says December 14th. So I'm going to come back here and make this okay. Next, I'm actually going to use this grid So I'm going to take and make this text box smaller, create a new text box. Command V. Right. 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 Okay, I'm now going to set that to be universe. Okay. So I have what is called a hierarchy going on here. Hierarchy. So this is the biggest, the grid. You know, I don't like those quote marks. I'm just going to call it this. I think that lines up much nicer. So we see that this program is going to be about the grid, whatever that is. We're actually working with one. Joseph Mueller-Brockman is the speaker. The date is here. Then we have the location is smaller. And then I might have tickets at nvcc.org/tickets. I'll just make up something. Okay, so that's the beginning of this. Then the one other thing I wanted to add was I also want to add, well, there's two other things I want to add. One of the things I want to add is part of my bio for Mr. Mueller-Brockman that I wrote for my paper. So again, I'm going to disappear for a second while I go back and I copy some of my article. It's here somewhere. I'm probably going to have to cheat on this. I am going to have to cheat on this. So excuse me while I open a previous version of the poster. So I'll just copy that, close that. And I'm going to put this text here. And I get to decide how much of it I'm going to use. I'm going to use about that much. If I go back to my grid, you'll see that that all lines up with the grid. Okay. And so that could be my design. And then if I were to, as you saw in the other poster, well, okay. If I go to my swatches here, you'll see that you don't have a lot of color swatches available. One of the things that's useful is there is a eyedropper over here called the color theme tool. And I could take this and I can click on one of my images and you'll see that you get a series of colors. I click here, which looks like the swatch book, and it actually adds them over here. And then if I wanted to add a color behind this whole poster to make it more vibrant, more exciting, I would come over here and take a rectangle. I'm going to go to normal. I'm going to come out to this bleed area that we created, and I'm going to drag this so it's bigger than the page. I'm going to tell the fill to be yellow. And like in Illustrator, every time you create something, it's on top of everything else. So like in Illustrator, we also have object, arrange, send to back. And then I can go over here to the bottom of the toolbar where I've been going before and go from normal to preview. And this would be how this poster would look. So. And that would be, this would be a way of doing the poster. And I can also select, so the grid, and I can go up here to the color swatches, click red, like that. And if I wanted to, I could even make this type a lot bigger. And the interesting thing is that now that it is pushed there, I no longer can really put this here. And so I'm forced to find another place for this that will live on the grid. One possibility is I could put this up here. And then I'd want to see what that looks like. Preview. Kind of like that, which is one way of handling it. I could also move this up there. I could move it down here. If I move that down there, what my temptation is to take all of this. And here comes this challenge. Because I'm thinking this moves up to there. Moves back down like that. This comes up to the grid. Preview. And now it looks about like that, which is a little different look than I had before. And I wonder whether that might be a more interesting place for it. So this design is being determined by the grid, and so the grid is going to force a certain look on this. But I'm willing to let that happen because I might not have a better idea. Or I just want something other than what I'd more obviously design if I didn't have the grid. Because I can guarantee that this isn't what I would normally come up with if I was just not working with the grid. So, so I'm going to call that good. And I'm sure there are a bunch of things I went over really quickly that would be useful for you to review. And I hope this is helpful for that.